how fast do you build characters? Or have you ever done improv? And if you're doing improv, or like, let's say, I don't know, like a random piece of beef jerky,
Sure.
how do you make like a voice and a character?
That's a great question. And how I do it is, and I know this is going to sound very perfunctory, I do it. And what I mean by that is there comes a point, and it probably has happened to you too. I mean, 3 years is a long time to play. And I think the thing you'd probably agree with me, the thing I love about improv is it not only teaches you to think on your feet, but you make a choice, you commit to it, doesn't work, and it's not the end of the world. So you do another one. Everybody goes like this, and that's part of the joy, a part of the joy and the experience of walking on a tightrope. You're doing it without a net. You know, somebody says, "Okay, James, you're a talking piece of beef jerky, and Rob, you are a beef jerky inspector," and
Yeah.
off you go.
Okay.
Uh, and uh, what happens? Billy West put it beautifully. It's very simple, but it's true. Improv and a lot of voice talent are utterly fearless. I don't mean they're going to walk into the twin towers. I mean that it's not about how handsome you are, how tall you are, how strong you are, black, white, green, orange, gay, straight. It is about utter, in my view, utter unself-consciousness. That is to say, James is a 41-year-old or 40-ish-year-old, lovely guy, family, all this stuff, actor, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've got a case that's making you nuts. It doesn't matter, in that moment, that what you're about and your partners are about is your commitment to whatever you're doing. And it it's not necessarily automatic because you have to work at it. But in what I have done is I try anything. And the reason I love doing these talks is that I can have a circumstance that will address almost any question you could have in all these years I've been here. What often happens at work is the producer will say, "Hey Rob, we've got you here, but do you do a kind of a passable Barney Fife something?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I can, yeah, but if you want a guy to channel it, you call Jeff Bennett. I mean, Jeff Bennett is he channels Don Knotts. Yeah, we love Jeff. Maybe we'll get him here next week. But you're here. Would you mind trying this if we send you in a couple of lines?" And I always say, "No, of course not. I wouldn't mind at all. I'm in." I've also seen actors, understandably, who may not have the sort of improv background you do, who will say, I don't know, I'm not really very good at it. And it doesn't mean that they're not going to get hired again. It just
Mhm.
means that there's a part of them that is concerned about being embarrassed or concerned about not getting it right. The producer didn't ask you to get it right. They said, can you do a passable one? So I do my version of Barney Five and mess around a little bit and all that stuff. And they go, "You know what? That's that's actually kind of fun. It's not perfect, but we like that. Great." And then boom, you got 12 more episodes where the other person who may have been offered that opportunity will probably come back because they're decent, but they don't jump in with both feet. That's why improv is so great. You get to a point where you don't care if you're good or bad. You just go for it. You make choices. Ultimately, there are a perfect example I love for the is one of my dear friends for a long time before his unfortunate passing is Phil Hartman from Saturday Night Live. Phil put me at such ease years ago. He was 8 years older than I, and I used to go watch them in the Groundlings, Tress MacNeille and Phil Hartman and
Yeah. Hmm.
Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman.
That's
Um,
been amazing.
oh, um, Cassandra Peterson, Elvira. I mean, I mean, a stupid talented Will Ferrell, stupid talented group of people, all unknowns. And I think the smartest thing I did, James, when I moved to LA was because I'd already been on the road, and I knew that I wanted to be in the entertainment business, but I also knew there were a lot of other people who wanted to do it. So nothing surprised me because I'd already been on the road for a couple of years. I was only 22, but I surrounded myself with people who were far, far more talented than I. And I remember saying to Phil, "Jesus Christ, you're terrifyingly inspirational. I mean, I don't know how you do what you do, but I want to do my version of that. And you really inspire me. I just don't know how the fuck to do it. And he was the one who said, well, you're not supposed to be me. You know, the idea is exactly that, is you go, wow, that's pretty cool. How did that person get there? And what I found out is I get there by doing it like everything else. Not only does practice make perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. And by that, I mean, anytime you can play with your buddies at improv, anytime you take the time to just play on your own, I mean, you can do it anywhere. I record stuff in my car all the time. I'll hear something on the radio, something that'll inspire me. I will just gotten off the phone with Maurice or somebody else and say, oh man, we were riffing and I kind of got a kick out of that. I'm gonna just make a little note to self, blah, 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 when Maurice said, blah, blah, you did this, and these little nuggets. And then what happens, it's probably happened to you, are these things that get stuck in your mental Rolodex. And you start to do it so much that an improv circumstance will come up in front of you that lends itself to a couple of bits work. Like if you say, are you serious? Dude, I'm serious as a pimple on prom night. Well, that's a clever little bit. Most people say serious as a heart attack, or I'm dead serious. Serious as a pimple on anybody who's been a teenager can relate to that.
Yeah.
And so you throw that in there and they kind of go, oh, that's clever. Where'd that come from? So it is a combination of your, as Malcolm Gladwell says in Outliers, 10,000 hours. And that doesn't mean that you put a clock on it. It means you're an attorney. You've already got a gig. You're doing improv and talking to me because you can't not do it. You want to do this. This is not something that you're saying, okay, hey, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to do this. It would be great down the road if you find a way to make a little do-re-mi at this. But you're doing it for the noblest of reasons, the same reason all of us do, because we just want to try. So that's in a nutshell, as simple as it sounds, it really is about jumping in with both feet and not being afraid to be bad. Robert Redford had a great line: "You're only as good as you dare to be bad," and that never stops. I'm 68. I am less fearful of looking like an idiot than I used to be. But when it comes up, I just go, well, there's that again. No problem. I'm an idiot. I'm a talking mouse. I'm a talking turtle.
So if you went back and had to give your 22-year-old self advice, it would just be along those lines of just be like completely fearless, and anything else you would tell yourself?
Yes, I would say develop every time that you go up and do improv or stand up or do a play or step out. If you're singing in a group of people and you do a little step out in a solo, you always get a little nervous. The difference becomes your nerves. My nerves when I was younger was, oh my God, I hope I don't screw it up, and I had to get through that. My nerves now are, oh my God, I can't wait to get out there because I'm gonna fucking kill him. And we all have that. I would venture to say 3 years is great, man. So you've been doing this since your late 20s. I'm sure you've had numerous times when you've just lit it up, and that feeling is like a drug, and it works beautifully. So you already have the experience of being successful.
What I noticed, and I relate to you, is that that nervousness or the butterflies in the stomach change from, oh my God, who's watching me, how many people are here, to like, I can't wait to get out there,
Good for you.
Yeah. And like, you know what my worst feeling now is? Like, I have a show this weekend coming up again. I just did one 2 weeks ago. It was a mediocre night for me.
Huh?
And I hated that feeling driving home thinking I could have just done more, because you never get the time back, and like, I like my mentality of improv is like, it's a team sport. So like, the better I am, the better everyone is. And
That's
you
exactly
never,
right.
yeah. And you never want the compliment that says you were great,
Right.
because then So
You
like,
are right. In fact, like,
mhm.
listen, in almost every interview I do, I talk about a high tide raising all boats. Um, I'm way better because I've gotten to work with Frank Welker and Maurice LaMarche and Tress McNeil and Nancy Cartwright and um, Billy West and John DiMaggio and oh my God, over and over and over and over again. And you either get better or people kind of pass you by. It doesn't mean you're not a nice person or good or bad. It means that there's a group of people who continue to work for decade after decade, and it's not an accident. Everybody gets lucky a little bit in showbiz, which is kind of integral to at least getting a crack. Whether or not you're able to capitalize and work for the next 30, 40 years is a different story. And excuse me, for me, the the friendly competition of improv is just what gets me better. I grew up in Michigan and wanted to be a professional hockey player. I got as far as college, and some kid leveled me, and it was clear to me that I'd gone as far as I could go.
Yeah.
But um, but I got better by playing with better players. Same thing with golf. Same
Mhm.
thing with improv. And so, yes, you're right. And you said something that was uh, spot on. With that feeling going, oh shit, I could have done X, Y, Z. That happened to me innumerable times uh, in auditions. Um, and this is what I'm talking about is I had to learn to be completely focused and utterly self-conscious because when you're just starting out or you have a little success, and in my case, um, I was a little bit seduced by making more money than I thought I'd ever make in my life doing a commercial. You know, the first SAG job I got when I was in LA was I was 23, and I did a series of Jack in the Box commercials. Um, and I recall, you know, doing the shoot and being on a set and all that stuff. Great. And then I got a residual check for like 5,000 bucks. And man,
Mhm.
I thought, oh, dude, all I got to do is get a few more of these, and that 911 is going to be in my garage, you
Mhm.
know, which was both a blessing and a curse. The money was wonderful because that I'd never experienced that. Um, but what happened was I thought, oh man, I can do this. And I started putting the money ahead of the of the opportunity, the cart way before the horse. So I'd walk into an audition, any audition, a series or an episode of St. Elsewhere, whatever. And I'd say, oh my God, if I get this, oh man, if I get this. Well, yeah, but you won't get it unless you focus and you are utterly unself conscious and fearless for that 5, 6, 7 minutes that you have that you're right, you can't get back. So there's that hackneyed phrase that actors hear all the time, but it's the freaking truth, and that is to be here now, be in the moment. Just like improv, they tell you, be in the moment. Can't think about, you know, you respond and you don't negate all that other stuff. Um, and so I would start not getting callbacks. And I thought, oh my God. And then it would snowball and I'd get more and more nervous. Finally, I had to have a little moment to myself and say, wait a minute. Oh, because I would do what you're talking about. I would leave Paramount, having read for a movie or something, and get in my car and I'd, okay, settle down. Oh, shit. Wait a minute. Let me get that, pull over, look at the script. Oh, fuck. I could have done, there was this thing I had to do right here and I totally forgot about it. I totally spaced. Why did I do that? So I had to remind myself about what it was that made me drive my little Honda out from Michigan in the first place. It was not the money, it was the joy of doing it. It was the drug that had hooked me of that feeling of getting it, of nailing it. You know when you get it right. You know when you got an audience, whether it's a casting person or a whole room full of people, a couple of beers in them. It you know when you get that feedback. You know when you're killing it.
Mhm.
The the lesson is that once we are able to channel that talent we know we have, uh, at the drop of a hat that becomes second nature. And focus, 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 be in the moment, not think about an hour from now. Whatever happened when you got here, you got stuck in traffic, you're 5 minutes late, well, they still let you in. Don't worry about that. Even God can't change the past. You're here. So, and whatever talent you have at that moment has to be available to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fine line to walk. You don't want to put extra pressure on yourself, but that feeling of getting in your car and going, oh shit, I can't go around. I can't go back into Paramount. They're not going to let me back on the lot. I've had my 5 minutes. That's a horrible feeling, especially when you know you can do better. And by the way, this is not a nobody's keeping score. You're not going to, you're human. Not everybody's going to kill it. The nice thing about getting a job when you're working with people is you can say, oh, you know what, let me just go over that again. I think we're ready to move on. James, are you happy? Yeah, I think I'm. Wait a minute. You know what? If you wouldn't mind, Rob, I'd like to do that sequence again. I got something else I'd like to try. Then you're in there and you're already getting paid, and you can work that muscle more and more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
But your remuneration now is the feeling you get when people go, "Oh my God, where did those guys come up with that?" What's that guy's name? James Piccolo? Piccolo. That guy, Jim Piccolini, is fucking smart, man. I like this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the payment right now.
Yeah. A lot of people struggle, or young improvisers, they struggle sometimes because they are themselves on stage and they filter, and that slows you down. So, how do you, I guess, I mean, you're a professional, so of course you don't have that problem. But if
Yeah.
you're, yeah, like some people say that there's a piece of you in everything that you do,
Mhm.
but how do you not make it so much you that it flies, you know?
Got it. And the only thing I can say is doing it over and over again. The cool thing about what you and I do is that we don't need a stage to do it. We don't need a microphone. We don't need someone else. We don't need an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
We can practice, play, improvise just because it's Tuesday and I want to do this. And here's what I do a lot is I love dialects. I'm not particularly good at a lot of them. I can get a couple of bites of almost any dialect and then make it work in the context of a character well enough that it'll work for something I'm working on. If I'm to do a perfect South African accent, I got to work at it. Uh, but I can mess with it enough to make it work. Like I said earlier about Don Knotts. Okay, so even a bad impression is a new character. And here's a great example. I did this character for years on Jimmy Neutron called Carl Weezer, this little, um, really little weird fat guy who has this kind of silly, nerdy voice and speaks very slowly, and he has a lazy L. You probably know people who will say,
Mm-hmm.
"Hi, I'd like you to meet my friend Larry," where the L is on the back of their throat. You and I would say Larry. Sometimes people have a speech affect. They say Larry, laser, little. There's a little Tom Brokaw, who used to be an
Yeah.
NBC anchorman.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he says, today, Lech Walesa in Poland has a lazy L. So I put that into Carl. And you do it enough, and every time an L comes up, Carl says, oh, I just love llamas. Jimmy's mom likes to ride on a llama with me. And then you get to a point where you can improvise as Carl all day long. And I don't have a lazy L. Carl does. And it's the same thing with Pinky. I do a pretty good British dialect and kind of a Cockney thing with Pinky, but I can do it all day long. All of a sudden, even the pattern of my speech, the speed with which I speak, all of it is completely different. My eyebrows raise, everything becomes much more gesticulatory. Is that the $100 word? And I don't have a script, but I can talk to you as Pinky or Yakko all day long. Um, so to that extent. while I'm the one performing the character, I come up with, and often the writers do too, but we're talking about improv. I come up with things that, for the lack of a better term, make the character my own, make the character something that has little. If I'm doing some feller, I don't know from what part of the United States, but I've been doing it long enough. I can start messing with things like that. And when I say THEM boys, them boys, I don't say them boys. I say M boys. Hey, M boys is crazy. They ain't no TH on it. It's just, man, I mean, M boys is nuts. And it's not nuts, it's nuts. You just, there are
Mhm.
all these little nuances which make a character breathe. Whether it's animation, improv, we love Jack Nicholson because Jack has a lot of his own stuff in it. I mean, when somebody's doing Jack, I don't do him very well, but the cadence is kind of how it. Or Christopher Walken. Everybody knows Chris Walken has that weird speech pattern. Weird. You know, these weird stops and starts. Everybody can do those. Um, but despite the fact that Jack is Jack, whether he's doing the Joker or the Postman Always Rings Twice or The Shining, he's Jack and we know it, but we buy the character because Jack is a terrific actor. I had my own experience with something similar uh, in that I was, when you were a little guy, I got to be Raphael in the original Ninja Turtles. Then, 25 years later, I got hired to be Donatello on a 2012 iteration of Ninja Turtles. Same guy, two different turtles, long time apart. But I have to tell you, there was certainly a part of the equation that made me think, you know, I'm changing the character a lot because Donnie's different. And I've got information that I'm getting from the production team, but it's not really, I mean, people are going to know it's me. But you know what? It didn't make a goddamn bit of difference because I was good at my job. The ultimate compliment that I get now is when people your age might have a child who's 7 or 8 or whatever and come up and say, hey man, I grew up watching TMNT. Now I watch the one with my kids in which you or Donnie, and I buy that character. I mean, I know it's you, but I buy it. Well, you should if I'm good at my job. So
Mhm.
that is all to say that it's experience over and over and over again. You take chances, you try stuff, and the worst that can happen, that's why I keep banging on fearlessness. The worst that can happen is it doesn't work. So what? Or it works in the context of whatever you're doing, but maybe you'd like to tweak it a little more. Fair enough. This is a marathon. You are not as good now at 41 as you're going to be at 45. I'm not as good at 68 as I'm going to be at 70 because I want to keep getting better.
Exactly. Yeah. When you, they always tell it like, because I guess improv is different because it's happening fast, right? And how do you get there? Do you ever incorporate different physicality in the way you
Oh,
stand? Yeah. So
oh
what?
yes.
Yeah. Do you
In
like
fact,
you shoulder down, standing up straight?
always.
Mhm.
Well, like I said earlier, when I'm Carl, I'm very much more reticent. I'm not really quiet, but there's that lazy L again. I didn't even think about it. But my speech pattern is much slower. If you were here right now, you could see I'm a little more, yep. But Pinky is like this. And
Yeah.
Yakko is like, hello, nurse. How you doing? Hey, Dracula. Does Batman know you're wearing his cape so badly? Um, that kind of stuff, it becomes second nature. Um, John DiMaggio. Do you know who John is?
No, I'm not familiar.
Nice Italian boy from New Jersey. John is,
Cousin of Joe.
how about that?
But
Yeah.
he played
Uh,
for the Mets. The other one played for
Thanks
the.
for the Mets. What about
Yeah.
that? Uh, do you watch Futurama or have you ever watched Futurama?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
John is plays Bender, the
Okay.
robot.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Big guy. Kiss my shiny metal. Terrific actor. John is very demonstrative. He's a big guy. He's got a big voice. He's really funny, but that's not but, and he moves around a lot. Um, Frank Welker, who does, oh God, Frank, um, Megatron, uh, God, the roars for the Lion King. I mean, all that stuff. D. Bradley Baker, who does Perry the Platypus and all these other characters where he does remarkable skill with these sounds. And he, you know, moves his head and stuff like this when he's doing monsters and all. It's quite remarkable to watch. Um, and yes, especially with improv, because it's performative, it's live performance. Um, if you watch Whose Line Is It Anyway or SNL or any of that stuff, SNL isn't really improv, it's the cue cards and script. They run through it, but it's, you know, carded. Um, of course, Will Ferrell. There was a great bit years ago, a million years ago, where Will Ferrell played cowbell in an
Yeah.
episode. Yeah, okay. And Chris Walken is the producer. We need
Hmm.
more cowbell. All right. So you watch Will. He's got his big gut hanging out of his ill-fitting T-shirt, and that whole physical Jerry Lewisy type of thing. He's getting a laugh. He doesn't even open his mouth.
Hmm.
Doesn't even open his mouth. And he's doing all this silly stuff. Now, to do that, you got to be in a position where you go, I don't care what my wife thinks. I don't care what my friends think. I look like an idiot, but it's about them. And the audience will dig this. You know why? Because I'm smart and I laugh at it. They're smart. They'll get this.
Hmm.
And all that comes with doing it over and over and over again. And like I said, you can do it whenever you want. You don't just have to wait to get on stage. Um, and I entertain myself. If I can make myself laugh, I've got something, you
You're
know?
probably either the best person to be on a car ride with or the worst, depending depending on the best
My,
perspective.
my wife would probably say the latter.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I try to rope it in when I'm
Mhm.
traveling with my wife. But no, you're right. That's why, God, one day I always tell people like you this, these my new friends, I would love to be able to get all of you into a recording session with these people one day, because that's the show. I find myself still just going like this with my eyes big and saying, I've known Tress MacNeille since she's been a cocktail waitress in Marina Del Rey. She's now the most prolific female voice talent in the history of Hollywood. And when she does that crazy cat lady from Simpsons, or when she does Mom from Futurama, or Dot, or Daisy Duck, I don't care. I just, where did that come from? And she was a groundling. That's where she learned her chops. Um, but she's 72 now. Same with Billy. So
Mhm.
again, that is not, to me, that's good news. That is not to say, oh my God, you got to wait till you're 70. Not at all. Not at all. You're good now. You're
Mhm.
just going to get better. What I love to tell people about that, when folks who are my age, is they go, holy shit, they're still doing it. Um, Also, I got to tell you, as I get a little older, it keeps your brain sharp when you're able to think on your feet, create on the spur of the moment, not be afraid to try stuff on the spur of the moment. It keeps you sharp,
Of
and it also puts you in a pretty good position to be a good conversationalist.
course. Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I that is how I try to infuse stuff with my sensibilities, because I'm the one whose brain is making this happen. But I get these bits and pieces, like Phil Hartman said, you're going to lift pieces, you're going to steal pieces from. I do the same thing, Rob, and you will incorporate that into your work because it becomes part of your head. And if you were to talk to me in a character, and you wanted him to be, some guy who's a Sabretz guy, I could do that, with you all day long. Interesting. I didn't say with you. I said with you.
Yeah.
I didn't
It's
even
already coming
think
out.
about it. You know what I mean? You know that better than I. So if I'm seeing, let me ask you a question, not ask, ax. And that is, you know, guys like that. Yo, Jimmy, let me ask you something. How'd you get downtown, bro? What the fuck? How'd you get here? You know, I would never say ax, but those little um, nuances, affectations create authenticity.
And then it cascades, right? Because the more you keep going with that, then you add in the physicality, like a little twitch or a little thing, and then
Totally.
it just keeps taking off from there, you know?
Yeah, because if I decide that I have this weird tick and I don't know where it's going to happen, but I have my voice is okay, and but I have this thing. You can do that on stage, and then the person says, "Jim, are you okay? What are you talking about?" Well, you're twitching. No, I'm not. I'm not twitching at all.
Yeah. And it just feeds.
I'll
And
tell
then
you what, I'm not twitching, Jim, but you sure are moving a lot,
Mhm.
and it has nothing to do with a dialect or a a a, a discernible character. The character is right here because I'm doing this, and I
You don't know how hard it is for me as an improviser guy to not just keep going with that and just sit here and be like, just take it in instead of just playing with that character you're creating.
see.
I have to bite my tongue.
Isn't that great though? Your excitement is palpable,
Yeah.
and I love that.
So that's loud. Just how I want to know how like your head works. I would like to share this with like newer improvisers. So like you're on the back line. There's that scene going on, and it's you hear Siri says a pimple on prom night. You know you got to be the pimple, right? Like, right?
Great.
How would you then clap in, edit this? You know, you want to come in as the pimple.
Okay.
How would you make that? You know,
Okay. The first thing that comes to my mind just now when you said you're going to be the pimple, why not? Um, there. See, this is why I love this. I love doing this. We did a reboot of Animaniacs, and in one episode, Dot is going to wake up in the morning and she has a pimple, and the pimple
mhm.
starts to sing. A zit, a zit. Man, what's wrong with it? Whatever it was. It was written by the same guy who wrote United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama. Okay, so there's a talking zit. Now the character was performed by Kevin Michael Richardson, who is super gifted. You might know him from oh God, Cleveland Junior on the Cleveland Show. He does a lot of stuff. Anyway, um, so for me, the first thing that came to mind was I come out and maybe I'm the head zit. Now, zits always get a head on them. Uh, I don't know if you know this, but I am the head zit. What do you mean? Well, I've got a head on my zit. Now, that's a different. I'd actually have a head. I mean, not this head, but I'm a zit, so I'm coming to a head. But I'm trying to get ahead in this business. So if you don't mind, I'm going to come in here and learn what I can. What, you're the head zit? I am. Are you coming to it? Not at the moment. I'm not coming to a head at the moment, but I am the head zit. How do you know when you're coming to a head? Well, trust me, it'll take care of itself. So I'll be the head zit. I'm coming to a head, and I'm trying to get ahead. On the other hand, so you can something. You can use infection. Yeah, well, I'm a zit, and I'm having a little infection, a follicular infection. But my laugh is pretty infectious, right? Listen, not so much. Oh well, okay. Maybe I need to have an affection instead of an infection. And you're smart. You start these things open themselves up, and you start playing with the language. Uh, and of course, you honor the other people in the scene, but you become so facile and so in the moment that you click it on. And when you said you're on the lot, your thing, and you're going to be a pimple, it's what happens when somebody gives you something from the audience.
Mhm.
Okay, you're a rabbi. You're probably a Catholic, but you're a rabbi.
Good guy.
So yeah, uh,
Mhm.
uh,
The
and
hard
you're
part's over if I wanted to convert. So same
there.
thing.
You go. It's all set. Yeah, well, that's right. Boom. Keep the
Yeah.
tip. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally. But you know exactly what I'm talking about right there. That's like Robin Williams esque. if I say to you, you're probably a Catholic, but and you say, well, the hard part's over,
Mhm.
that I didn't think of that. That
Mhm.
was really smart. You're already thinking, wow, I'm going to say something that every guy can relate to, and most women, and
Yeah.
it's in the context of being a Jew, and it's off the top of my head, and it's going to get a laugh. Really smart. And you didn't even think about it, man.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's really good.
No, so that's also why I wanted to contact you is because like I think one of my skills is that it's like that third thoughting it, right?
Mhm.
Like I don't have as good skills as you with voices, currently. I mean, I try, but like the same thing as a zit, right? If I was in a scene and I heard serious as a pimple on prom night, I know what most people are thinking. But the third thought is to have someone come in and be the pimple, right?
Totally.
And that's hilarious. So like that. So then it's like, yeah, how do I implement more
Okay.
voices for myself or like, but everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. So,
Oh
you know,
yeah, and
yeah.
that's what's beautiful about what we do, man. Y- I I have to qualify all that I say with, remember, I've been blessed to be in Hollywood for the last 46 years with people you guys have grown up all of them
Mm-hmm,
watching, listening to, because some of them are gone already, but I was with them every day.
mm-hmm,
Couldn't help but get better. But already your setup, your third thought,
mm-hmm.
the pimple, and I'm the kid and it's prom night, and my girlfriend and I, or my mom and I, or the woman, I go, oh my God. Um, I say, oh my God, I got a pimple on prom night yet. And then we start riffing about, I'm serious as a pimple. And then you walk in and say, oh, who's the prom guy? Yeah, I'm the pimple. And you might even be, I'm the guy, I'm the pimple. I haven't been to a prom in a long time, but I'm really here to tell you that I'm gonna fuck up your night, son. And you are a walking pimple, and
Yeah.
you're gonna attach yourself to this kid. And so all of a sudden, I can probably get rid of you, and then you stay right behind him, or you say
Mm-hmm,
no, and you put your arm around it. No, you're stuck with me. We're going. No,
mm-hmm,
no, no. I'll wash you off, and sorry, not
mm-hmm.
until I come to a head.
Yeah.
Can you do it tonight? Nope. So it, all of that stuff starts to take over because of your training. It's not highfalutin. It's not dissimilar to a lawyer, a doctor. Um, you you have passed the bar. You're a smart guy. You have to be to get your law degree, and you have learned enough about case law in whatever specific area of expertise you practice in to say, you know what, that reminds me of for lack of a better term, because people, Brown versus the Board of Education. I'm going to check something. You know what? There is a precedent for this. Your nomenclature, your thought processes when you're doing your paid gig it clicks in. You also learn from attorneys who are maybe the senior partners at your firm, or people who've taken you under their wing, or a law professor whom you still keep in touch with. And you have volumes of legal stuff to peruse, but you know how to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've learned that. Now, you've really learned, like you've already demonstrated, how to get to the funny, how to get to the clever, and how to make it authentic and organic because you've been doing improv. 3 years is a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're already there. But if you can, you, you've already proved to yourself that you're able to perform at a high level intellectually. I don't know anybody who's successful out here who's stupid. Nobody. Um, and I don't mean that they are Rhodes Scholars,
They're good actors. That's why.
unafraid to
Yeah.
learn. Now,
Yeah.
there are people who are funny and have substance abuse problems, and that's kind of stupid, but that happens with everybody. But I don't know if you had a chat with any of the people I've mentioned today, you could talk to them about politics, about religion, uh, about cars, whatever their thing is, but none of them are stupid. irrespective of their college background. They're smart people, and they don't stop learning, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
But you're in a pretty unique position, my friend.
Yeah. And like typically when yeah, that's why I also love people. You love meeting people. The more you learn about everything, like the funnier I can be, and you start pulling from all these different things.
Always. Yeah.
And like, yeah, especially when it comes to like doing like the voices and stuff. Like I'll channel somebody's like this is their father, and you mix it all together. But yeah, like I'm just on my journey. I'm like trying to get better with more character work because typically my strength is I love working with character people like yourself because I'll throw softballs. And a lot of
Yeah.
times from good character players, just lack of better terms, they ask me how do I do what I do by like third thoughting it and giving you that gift of like be the pimple, and then
Yep.
the audience dies
Oh,
because
man.
like
You know what? You got to make a T-shirt that says "Beat a Pimple."
be
I
the
mean,
pimple.
that's
Yeah,
great. What does that mean? Oh, let me tell
yeah,
you what "Beat a Pimple" means.
yeah.
Uh, but you're right. When
Hmm.
you're that good, and when you start, you can tee it up for people. You're going to have people come in who will be terrified, and you've already experienced this. Young people will say, oh my God, I can't do that." Well, and you give them a gift, like you said. You get out there and you say, "I'll tell you what. Um, just take a breath. Whatever happens next one, I'm going to tee one up for you."
Hmm.
And you do that. And hopefully they grab it. Hopefully they knock it out of the park because it makes the scene better, just like you alluded to a bit ago. It makes everybody better, but you can help them. And I got that so many times. But I also had times when I was absolutely terrified in a really fun way. Do you remember Jonathan Winters by any chance?
Not by name.
Jonathan, when you get a moment, uh, just get on YouTube and uh, search Jonathan Winters, Winters. Jonathan was Robin Williams' hero, um, and one of mine. Jim Carrey, same thing. Jonathan was a really famous comedian actor in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. He's passed away now, but I got to work with him a number of times. And we worked with him on Smurfs a million years
Wow.
ago. And Jonathan used to go on. Do you remember hearing about Johnny Carson, the late night talk show guy?
Mm.
Okay. Google Johnny Carson, Jonathan Winters. Johnny, every time Jonathan would come on, or Robin, Johnny would just tee it up, lob him right across the plate because the audience was primed to see Robin go off, to see Jonathan go off. And you'll watch them.
Hmm.
And like Robin was more manic energy, Jonathan might move around a little bit, but his brain was just unstoppable. Now, not every little nugget made the audience double over, but he was right on to the next one and completely fearless. There's one where Jonathan was on the early Tonight Show before Johnny Carson became a host, in which the host in those days, Jack Parr, P-A-R-R, just gave Jonathan a stick, just a stick. And Jonathan did 5 minutes fishing, um, racehorse, uh, uh, a lieutenant with a director, music concert. Insane. Now, that type of nuttiness is usually a gift, which comes with, as we know with Robin, comes with its own set of problems. But when you can channel it and develop your own stuff, uh, you see how effortless these people become. And sometimes you can argue that the reason they're fearless is because they're a little bit cuckoo. But if you can cultivate that ability to say, yeah, well, I'm an attorney, I'm a smart guy, I take care of my family, but right now I'm a pimple.
Yeah.
And that's what those guys do. And it is deeply inspiring. And the cool thing about what we have now is that you have things like YouTube. You can watch Robin or Rodney Dangerfield or uh, Jonathan or the Pythons, watch these guys and girls just go off.
Hmm.
And it's pretty freaking inspiring.
Yeah. No, I went down a rabbit hole with Johnny Carson. Actually, the Don
Oh,
Rickles interviews took me.
oh,
Yeah, right.
The same thing. Rickles had an act, but he was really good at improvising. And he
Yeah.
was, he had his Mr. Warmth, as they used to call him. And man, if you see any of those Dean Martin roasts,
Yes. Yeah.
Rickles goes off,
Uh-huh.
or Rickles, Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Rat Pack stuff.
Hmm.
Never in a million years could he get away with that stuff now, understandably. But when you see Frank Sinatra pick up Sammy Davis Jr. and say, I'd like to thank the Academy, because Sammy was this big, it's hysterical. And it was to everybody. Times have changed, but the courage to try stuff hasn't. You got to try stuff, and especially in the context of what you're doing.
Yeah, I always try to make myself uncomfortable. I started taking voice lessons for singing, right? Just to sing better
Good.
on stage. So like what does somebody like you do then to get uncomfortable? Like you still do stuff like that? Like what would make
Okay.
you uncomfortable?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Totally. Um, and it all goes back down to be willing to jump with both feet. And by that I mean, uh, okay, this is another example that I've lived many times. Um, I'll be in a session, and the producer will ask another actor, "Hey, um, Sylvia, we're thinking about writing a song for your character. Uh, if we give you a little bit of a melody and a couple of lyrics, would you just give us a shot with this?" And you can see sometimes they go, "Sure," or they go, "I'm not really a very good singer." Yeah, doesn't matter. Well, I kind of embarrassed. Yeah, but we just want you to just, we like the character. So if you do it long enough, they'll say, well, we'll just hire somebody to sing for Sylvia. Now, again, I'm a good singer, but I live in Hollywood. You can throw a dart and hit a good singer. But for instance, with Carl from Jimmy Neutron, Carl sings every now and then, but he doesn't even get close to a note. It's just all over the place, but it's fearless. When I do Yakko's a pretty good singer, but the thing about Yakko is he's got that patter stuff. Um, you know, I'm the cousin to the sister of the son's niece's brother of the all of that. Um, but what I will do in the reboot of Pinky and the Brain, there was a song that they wanted Pinky to sing that was instead of saying birthday, he said it's my narf day, and they wanted to do it as like a Sex Pistols songs punk song, and there were notes and there was a melody, but I just screamed it, and it worked great. I don't even know if people understood it. You can find it on YouTube, Pinky's Narf Day song, and it's just this speed metal. It's my Narf Day. It's my
Mhm.
Narf Day. It's like Johnny Rotten. Um,
Mhm.
I never. I had an episode of Pinky and the Brain for which I won an Emmy. I had a beautiful song in it. I sang it. It was really pretty. It was very um, uh, sweet, and it was written to be sung that way. I've never heard Pinky do that, but off you go. So I do put myself in situations, and sometimes the producers do it for me. Case in point, years ago, there was a Batman to video movie called Batman and Harley Quinn, and I got hired to come in and do some background character who had to sing in a nightclub in which Harley and Batman met. So I got to work, and Bruce Timm, the producer, uh, said, "Hey man, thanks for coming in. You're going to sing Don't Pull Your Love. You remember that from high school?" I said, "Oh my God, don't pull your love out on me, baby. If you do that thing to me." That was a hit when I was in 11th grade. And I said, "Sure." So I thought I was going to sing a verse or two because it was a background scene. And he said, "Oh, no, no, you're going to sing the whole thing." And I wasn't prepared for that, but so what? I said, "Sure." Then we got done, sang the whole thing. Um, and I'll tell you, this is an interesting tidbit, and it really is germane to our conversation. A few years ago, I had throat cancer.
Oh
I'm
wow.
fine. I'm
Yeah.
fine. But this was like maybe a year, year and a half after I had throat cancer. And frankly, I had been singing, but I didn't know if I could pull that off. But I didn't say, maybe I did have throat cancer. So if it's not that good, I didn't even put that out there. Something that concerned me, but I
Hmm.
said, you know what? Let's see what happens. And it worked out fine. Then Bruce said, that was great. Do you mind harmonizing with yourself for the whole thing? No, it worked fine. I left that session feeling like $1 million
Hmm.
because not only had I had throat cancer, I survived it and I'm able to do my job. And the producer was none the wiser and he never knew. So you don't have to have throat cancer to overcome your fear. The worst that can happen is, you know what? I think we got it. And then sometimes they end up using another singer, or sometimes they're happy with it. Doesn't matter. But the bottom line is not to miss the opportunity. When you're given the opportunity, go for it. The more you practice, the more you will be able to pivot and be facile when somebody throws you a curveball. That's why, again, improv is so great. And I don't care if you end up, not you, but I don't care if people never use improv for improv
Hmm.
at a comedy club or an improv club. The ability to think on your feet and speak extemporaneously is a huge gift to anybody, whether you got to sit up and stand up and talk at your church or you are going to a sales meeting and they say, okay, Rob, we want you to give the pitch. Great. You got this. I mean, there are people who go to class just to learn how to speak, Toastmasters, to learn how to speak in front of people.
Hmm.
You know, that's an incredible sense of confidence you get with having those improv skills.
Oh yeah. You know what my free practice tip is? I tell people it's the phone scammers.
Oh,
I'm a new character. If I'm not busy or I have some time, oh, I'll go all day with them. I'll
oh
as a
man. You know, I'm so glad you said that because I do the same thing.
of course you do.
Uh,
Of course.
if I don't recognize, sometimes I'll be in the car, it's a long ride, and hello, is this Rob Paulsen? No, this is his assistant, Lenny. What can I do for you? This is Mr. Paulsen. Yeah, I don't think you want to talk. Are you talking about the same Rob Paulsen? Because the same guy that I work for is, trust me, he's not in the market for a guy to come and do a new roof. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But what do you want from him? And that it's fantastic. And you've heard these guys, they can mess with people till the people in the call center in Mumbai get ready to blow their brains out because you just talk them in circles. And it's not only fun, but it is great training. Uh,
Hmm.
and um, I,
Yeah.
the other side of that is if you have other friends, you can do that shit together. Maurice LaMarche, the brain, and I do that stuff all the time. We will do it in the context of, you want to hear something funny, something improv that's really funny? It's really blue, but boy, is it funny. Um, Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. I don't know if you remember Dudley Moore. Dudley's now, yeah, but he had a partner, uh, not unlike the Goons or the Pythons, and they had a group called Beyond the Fringe, and they did a lot of improv, and they would have a show on Broadway that would have a structure to it, but there would always be improv because they're so smart. Well, they did two characters, two cockneys just sitting around chatting, and all they did, frankly, was just get hammered and turn on the tape recorder. It's gold. Now, it's not for everybody, but Mo and I, when we first met each other 35 years ago, we found out that we both have a deep love of British humor. And he said, "You listen to Derek and Clive?" And I said, "Do you mean what's the worst job you ever had?" Well, the worst job I ever had was retrieving lobsters from Jane Mansfield's bum. She used to live in Malibu, Malibu to Bum Bum, and she would go swimming in the ocean, and those fucking lobsters go zoom straight up her asshole. And it was my job to get those fucking lobsters out of her bum. Where did that come from? What's the worst job you ever had? Well, worst job I ever had was I had to be, I had to collect up Sir Winston Churchill's bogies. And he drank so much brandy and smoked so many cigars, he would gob up these fucking bogies every night. And it was my job to collect up all the phlegm, what Sir Winston Churchill gobbed out during the night. Oh, fuck me, I wouldn't do that job. Oh, no, it's terrible, mate. Now, it's utterly absurd, but who cares? So I love listening to it because it's same with Peter Sellers. If I think I'm good at my job, I listen to Peter Sellers from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. All of it's available on YouTube. And all those things conspire to find themselves, um, find that stuff into my brain. And then you get with your friends and it comes out, and then you find you're doing a variation on an established theme that you're coming up with because of this nugget of inspiration, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, so I all of those remind me of the fearlessness of the people who do what I do and what we do and like to do. I
Mm-hmm.
did it years ago with Blake Edwards' daughter Jennifer, and Blake Edwards was married to Julie Andrews. He's gone now, but he directed all the uh, uh, Inspector Clouseau, Pink Panther movies. Worked with Peter Sellers a lot, and love hate. Part of what made Peter a genius. My favorite movie is Doctor Strangelove, in which it's a Stanley Kubrick movie in which Peter Sellers plays three distinct characters that are uh, it's ridiculous. It's insane. From probably the late '60s, I guess. I don't know. But as is often the case, um, uh, Peter, for all his genius and his fearlessness, was very difficult to corral. But seeing what he would do that ultimately ended up on the screen was like, wow, that's a lot of guts. Because, he's spending $100 million of someone else's money or whatever the exchange rate was in those days. But that was why he was Peter Sellers or Robin Williams or Jack Nicholson or James Piccolino,
Mm-hmm.
because you create your own stuff by virtue of doing it over and over and over and trusting yourself. And you're around people whom you can trust too.
Sweet man, thanks. I know you went over time. I really appreciate your time. Uh, any like last minute tidbits for improv people or like creating characters on the spot? I don't know, any warm up games you ever did or enjoyed
Well,
or
and but so again, what I do, I guess maybe because my source material is different than yours because I grew up. Um, I was 12 in 1968. So I grew up Johnny Carson, Jonathan Winters, all those people, then the Pythons, then Peter Cook, the Firesign Theater and Improv Company from this country in the 70s, with whom I worked on a show called The Tick, and they were genius. So my source material is different, but you have access to everything now.
Mhm.
Um, I often will sing a song that I like in a character. Um, I remember have Pinky singing a song by Led Zeppelin called "Immigrant Song" from
God.
Led Zeppelin 3. I
Yeah.
don't know if you know the song.
Oh yeah, I love that song.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
but Pinky, we come from the land of the ice and snow, where the midnight sun and the hot springs glow. And people do what you're doing. They start to go, "Oh my God, that's yeah," you
Mhm.
know. Um, and that kind of stuff. Sing a favorite song as a character you like, and have little affects. Um, Listen, do da do. Do you want to know a secret? Do da do. Do you promise not to tell? Whoa, 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 whoa. Closer.
Yeah.
There's like one note,
Yeah.
and everybody knows the melody, so you don't have to do the melody. When you do your goofy character, or do Ave Maria as a mobster. I mean, you know what I mean? That nothing is off limits. Let me take for your creativity. Obviously, depending upon the crowd, et cetera, But there are times when you kind of step over the curb and you go, ooh, maybe that got somebody a little bit sideways, but boy, did that feel good. And that's how that shit, you know, gets gets going in your head. And as I say, I know I ramble when I do these, but I'm so glad you record it because I have an experience for virtually everything you ask, a personal one. Um, and I have to tell you, you're way ahead of most of the people with whom I speak because you've already gotten to a place where you get really juiced up by challenging yourself.
Oh,
But you're
thanks.
already a high achiever. I mean, nobody who
Yeah.
becomes attorney is stupid. So
I'm,
good
I'm
for
just
you.
competitive with myself, like it's always like,
Yeah,
how can I just get
me
better?
too.
And like you have no idea how hard it was to keep my mouth shut when you're doing like a character on the spot, and I just wanted to keep jumping in. So like, yeah, that was the most difficult part of this whole thing. That's why I'm like,
Well,
I gotta get you down here, jump up on a stage.
that's
Like,
great.
man, I
That
geek
makes
out
me
over
so,
that.
James, that makes me so happy because one of the things I also love to do about when I do these uh, chats is to demystify shit. There is for everybody, myself included. I mean, I knew when I moved to Hollywood that there are going to be a lot of people there I'd audition with, and I wouldn't get most of the things. I got to get an agent, all that stuff. But I was 22. I had no financial encumbrances. I didn't know anybody any money. I could be totally selfish. Great. Um, but it's just it's really a joy to do these because I have never lost the Jones to do this just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah. All I'm
I,
thinking in my head is, what can I throw this guy, or like what ridiculous thing, and then see what the heck you cook up with in your brain. And
I
yeah.
and what's cool is that if I'm with Billy West, who is Fry on Futurama, okay, Billy's Zoidberg and Professor Farnsworth, the guys, and Zap Brannigan, same guy, just
Yeah.
get it. Um, he's Ren and Stimpy, and come on. But when I'm with Billy and Lorraine Newman, who's one of the original SNL people, is now there's a lot of animation, and Maurice, whatever, we're all together. We do this. There's no money involved. We
Yeah.
just do this because it's like a drug. You're with people who get it. They're smart. They, if you can make them crack up, or if you can get their attention, and they go,
Mhm.
"Attaboy, wow, James, where did that reference come from?"
Exactly.
Then you got something, and you're like that.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to bend your ear a little bit, and I hope you've got stuff
Of
out of
course.
this you can find, and your friends. Please share it with whomever you like.
No, I'd love to. Yeah, man, it's been great. Yeah, I don't know how to end this. Yeah, it was hard not to like geek out for a bit. Yeah, and I'm happy you had fun time too. I'm sure you probably get asked a lot of the same things all the time.
Yeah,
And
but you know what? It's the first time you've asked me,
yeah.
and that's the point. People often say, "I bet you've heard this all the time. You're the voice of my child." Yeah, but you told me you
Mhm.
took the time to drive here to find this convention or to come and see Animaniacs in concert.
Mhm.
You're the one who bought the ticket. You're the one who's standing in line. You're the one who had to park. And you're telling me how much my work has meant to you? Thank you so much. The moment that gets old for me is when I
Yeah.
check out
Hmm.
because I asked for this. If
Hmm.
I get exhausted from saying thank you, how
Yeah.
much better can it be? So, not at all. It's my great pleasure. And I don't really pay much attention to the clock because, uh, like I said, I love to demystify this. You're a grown up, you know it's not like going to Oz,
Hmm.
but when people do it for money and you hear them, or you see them on TV and you see them interviewed, you kind of go, wow, how did that guy get there from Flint, Michigan? How did that happen? I drove here. And then you jump in the pool. It's not at all dissimilar to what you've already done with your 3 years of improv. There
Yeah.
were happy times when you looked at that and said, holy shit, that looks like a lot of fun, but man, I don't know if I could do that.
Even it leading me on a journey to talk to you about applying what you do to an improv way, like that's cool in and of itself, you know? So like it's
Well,
a lot of fun.
thank you, brother. It really is a pleasure. And like I always tell people, fans are friends whom I've just not met yet. So now
Yeah.
we're friends. And
No.
I'm grateful that I got my friend, Jimmy the P down in Miami.
Yeah.
By
Mhm.
the way, Miami's an Italian town, right? Miami, yeah, I'm
Over
all
here,
right.
dude. Over
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah, right. This is my friend Tony Genitalia. He's a lovely Italian guy.
Oh,
But
you would love this. I did a scene last week, 2 weeks ago. It was Vinny's tarot cards. Vinny's tarot cards. Yeah.
I
Oh,
love,
trying to break
look,
break barriers here.
I
Welcome to
love that.
Vinny's tarot.
Ooh, look who got the death card.
Yeah, exactly.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Wait a
saying
minute.
good. Yeah.
This is the card for a little smooch. You know what this means?
Yeah, that's
Bye
right.
bye. Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah.
Say hi to the fishes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But see, I love that because
Uh-huh.
one of the things that as a kid growing up, I grew up in Michigan, and I still remember the day that Jimmy Hoffa went missing.
Yeah.
And he still hasn't been found, right? I remember when people in the Meadowlands used to hold up a sign with an arrow pointing down saying, dig here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but what the people would talk about, these Sammy the Bull Gravano, Jimmy the Weasel Fradiano.
Mm-hmm.
I love that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Jimmy Tarot cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Way to go, man. Well, thank you.